guys, welcome to Talking Pood, a Star Wars show in which today I am reviewing Star Wars Inquisitor Rise of the Red Blade by Delilah S. Dawson. This book is all about a new character called Iskat Icarus, who is a Jedi Knight during the Clone Wars. When her master dies and the Clone Wars are ongoing, Iskat Icarus starts a descent into finding out who she is, where's she from, what's her place in the galaxy, and that descent probably doesn't end up in a way that she wants it to be. So, what did I think of this book in a nutshell? Well, let me first say that this book was not what I expected or wanted it to be. If you look at the cover of this book, if you look at the artwork and the title of this book, I think this book basically gives the impression that this is about an Inquisitor, perhaps in the Jedi in the Civil War. Right, that's reasonable. It's set between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, you would imagine, based on the art and the cover work and the title. It's not though. This is actually a Clone Wars story for about 60-70% of its time. It's not until the final third of the book where it's about an Inquisitor. So, with that being said, what did I think of this book? I think it's okay. What I wanted was a book about an Inquisitor. I didn't get that. Instead, I got a book about a Jedi falling to the dark side and becoming an Inquisitor, which is very welcome and very good in its own way. The problem is that I've seen Clone Wars stories before. There's not a lot new there on that front. The other problem is that I've seen a Jedi fall to the dark side before. I've seen multiple Jedi fall to the dark side before. There's not a lot new there, although it is well done in this book, I will say. The fact that she is constantly questioning the Jedi, she is constantly debating the views and opinions of the Jedi and what they're doing, their actions and beliefs. There's a lot of good stuff in there, a lot of good debates and questions being presented. So while there's not a huge amount of originality, it is well done. It's just also a shame that there's not a lot of twists or surprises. It's pretty predictable. There are certain mysteries that run throughout this book, like where is she from? Who is her mother? Where is this mysterious lightsaber that she's found from? These mysteries play out throughout the book, and then the answers are just there. They're not like big twists, they're not big surprises or reveals. It's the whatever you think the answer is to these big mysteries, guess what? That's the answer. There isn't a huge surprise there, so that's disappointing as well. One of the big things that I really did not like about this book was the amount of repetition in terms of description, particularly in Iskat Icarus and the fact that she is an alien from a planet called Picori. That's a bit of a spoiler, but she's from that planet, and her species has 2 hearts. Okay, interesting idea. Cool, she's an alien with 2 hearts. Every other paragraph mentions the fact that she's got 2 hearts, constantly going on about, oh, she felt that her 2 hearts beating, oh, her hearts were beating and saying, oh, the hearts were thumping out of her chest. It's very repetitive, very on the nose, and guess what? It foreshadows something later on when the fact that she has 2 hearts becomes relevant to a certain situation, and you know exactly what's going to happen, so it's not really a spoiler, but it's just annoying that over and over and over again she's defined by this one description of the fact that she's got 2 hearts. So I don't know, it just feels like the author dwelled a bit too much on that and really hammered that home a bit too much. This isn't a young adult novel, by the way, this is an adult novel, so if it was aimed at a younger audience I would get it a bit more, but this one, it just felt a bit, I don't know, I feel like there should have been just a little bit more to her character than the fact that she had 2 hearts. And while this is a Clone Wars story leading up to her descent to the dark side and joining the Inquisitors, what this book does is it really dwells on her mental state, her mentality, what she's thinking, what she's got going through her head. It does a good job of exploring all of that. Her constant questioning things, her constant debating things, her opinions and beliefs, always being brought to the forefront, and she's got an opinion on everything it seems, which is good for a main character. And all that stuff is very well done. Again, there is some repetition, we get it. She doesn't like Mace Windu, for example. Speaking of Mace Windu, this book has a lot of those references, a lot of characters from the prequel trilogy popping up here and there for small roles and playing parts in their life. It makes everything feel a little small, and the galaxy of these thousands of characters feel very minute at the fact that this new character is interacting with all of them. Did she really need to meet Palpatine? Did she really need to have this relationship with Mace Windu? Did she really need to be visiting Yoda every now and then? I don't know. And the fact that she then also bumps into Ahsoka Tano and Anakin and Obi-Wan very briefly, but they're there, it just makes everything feel really small and like everything's interconnected when it doesn't need to be. But speaking of the characters, outside of Isca Akaris and these more familiar characters like Obi-Wan and Anakin and Mace Windu in particular, and later on the Inquisitor, the Grand Inquisitor, and some of the other Inquisitors, a lot of the side characters just aren't that interesting. A lot of the new original characters made for this book aren't that interesting. There's a new Jedi called Twalon, who is a Twi'lek, and yeah, he's a very by-the-book Jedi for the most part. I'm not going to go into what happens later on in the story with him, but it just feels like there's a lot of archetypes in this book, like a good Jedi, or a rogue Jedi, or a Jedi who wants to do this and Jedi who wants to do that. We've seen it all before in a way, and there's very little originality in terms of who these new characters are. There is a new character a new exploration of some of the staff of the Jedi Temple, which I thought was interesting. The fact that the people who work in the Jedi Temple, who maintain it, who are cleaning the place up and working on the droids and stuff, are people who failed the Jedi trials. This is, I don't think it's new information, but it highlights something that isn't always highlighted, and that's a cool little addition to the canon, I think, or an expansion on the canon. But overall, the first 2/3 of this book, the large majority of this book, is a Clone Wars story. It's a pretty well done Clone Wars story. It does a good job of showing her descent to the dark side. But what I wanted this book to be is that final third when she becomes an Inquisitor. The problem is that in the second half of the book, things start to get a little rushed. There are certain events like Order 66, for example, is the big one, which feels very rushed. The way in which she survives Order 66, the way in which she gets out of being killed by her clone troopers, is not good, plain and simple. The fact that they basically just don't kill her is the thing. It's like, right, you need to go in deeper into this, you need to explain this a bit more. And they connect it to like Palpatine, who she's already met, and it adds more questions to the canon and the events around this than it answers, and it doesn't always make sense. The fact that they do rush through it very quickly as well makes this huge moment feel very minor, and it shouldn't. But anyway, after that, she is part of the Inquisitores, and a lot of this stuff is what I wanted it to be. But sadly, a lot of the Inquisitors are depicted as angry and aggressive and pretty one note. It is nice to see some of the characters from Star Wars Rebels and from the Jedi Fallen Order games and so on show up here, to show that everything is connected, how there are these characters who are all connected and linked and working together. Some of that stuff is cool. I just wish there was a bit more depth and nuance to it. And the fact that it is all crammed into that final third of the book is also a little frustrating. But what's also noticeable is that while it is building up to her becoming an Inquisitor, she becomes an Inquisitor before the end of the book, which means that that final third of the book left me wondering, where's this all going? Is there a big bad? Is there a big villain that she's going to take on? Is there going to be a big turn? And I think that the final third of the book does show her fully descend and commit to something. I'm not going to say what, but she does do that, and it has some big dramatic reveals a bit. I liked the way this book ended, I'll say that. But it didn't feel like the book was constantly building up to that. So that's my review of Star Wars Inquisitor Rise of the Red Blade. It's pretty well done for the most part, but it's not the most original thing ever. There's not really much in terms of surprises or twists. It's a Clone Wars story about a Jedi fallen to the dark side who then becomes an Inquisitor. That's it. And honestly, I don't think you need to read it because I've just told you everything that happens in it. And that's the problem. So, had this been the book that I thought it was based on the artwork and the title, I think I might have enjoyed it more. but based on what was in that final third, I'm now not entirely sure, because it feels a bit rushed at the end of the day. It's not a bad book by any means. It does a good job of introducing this new character of Iska Akaris, who is a likeable, engaging, interesting character. It's just everything around her that isn't all that engaging or interesting. And there's some good exploration of her mentality. There is some good introductions of debates and issues surrounding the Jedi and the Republic and what certain characters believe. All that stuff is pretty well done. At the end of the day, it's okay. And if you like this review, subscribe to my channel for more content like this, and of course follow me on X and Threads at _Grant Burton. Or just call it Twitter. Until next time, thanks for watching.